I'm going to talk to you guys about something today that I'm pretty passionate about, and it's something that I think challenges all organizations across a lot of industries, as we'll talk about, but I think it's a big thing in retail right now, especially as we sort of understand how to continue to foster digital innovation, especially in organizations that are set up for much more traditional landscapes, traditional hiring, traditional employment. And the reason this is such a big passion for me is because I joined West Elm about a year and a half ago to sort of hopefully, if I'm successful, do this for the Williams-Sonoma and West Elm organizations. And one of the big things that we preach there is understanding what we're trying to do, understanding how to foster the environment and the culture we want, and understand how to just move through that. And so I just want to walk you guys through sort of the hills and valleys we've encountered so far, the trials and tribulations that we've seen, and hopefully provide some insight in how we've actually been successful with this approach. So the first thing I always talk about when I sort of talk about this is, for a long time, everyone said that digital was eating retail. And I think that was true. I think digital did eat a lot of retail establishments. I'm sure we can all think of the Toys R Us's of the world and the Blockbusters and things like that that sort of got moved to the side. But at this point, everyone that's still here, that's still really pushing forward, digital is really just changing retail, right? We're just understanding how to connect with our customers better. We're understanding how to actually move forward and expand our opportunities. The really sort of bizarre thing about this is everyone understands that this is happening, but there's a lot of leaders in retail that don't really fully understand how to move their organizations forward. And I think this is the piece where us as retail leaders, executives, have to really start to sort of bear down, look at what we've been doing, and understand how we can hopefully make that better. And I think this is sort of, I guess it's humorous, right? I don't know. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not that funny, but it's maybe like a dark humor. This happens in every industry all the time. I mean, I just put up some dumb examples from recent times, and then even one that's maybe even dumber, right? Horses versus cars. We're at this point where technology continues to evolve how we get places, how we do things, how we actually interact with one another. And we all know this is happening, but a lot of us are sort of lacking of those skills in how we actually get there. So let's sort of talk a little bit about the question of why do leaders struggle in the face of technological and digital change. For retail specifically, there's really two bullet points that I always talk about when I sort of talk about the struggles we have. The first is the methods that retail uses to build technology are traditionally outdated. There's a lot of different ways that we've done things that worked a decade, a dozen years ago that actually don't work either on an app or on mobile or on the web. The second thing is that the talent that supports a lot of this sort of these old methods and methodologies is actually a little bit outdated. And I don't mean that in like, oh my gosh, we all need to go find new jobs. I just mean that the way that the talent has been allocated, the way that that has been set up, the way that people have been set in motion to do their job doesn't actually work for the way that forward-thinking companies need for them to be able to build quality digital technology and do digital innovation. Right, so what do we do? Well, there's a bunch of things that we can start doing. I think the first thing that we talk a lot about in our organization is we really need to update how we think about building technology. And I'm gonna pause on my bullets for 1 second. I'm gonna go on a little bit of my soapbox here. And I'm gonna move over into just some sort of cutouts from a really good blog post from SVPG, which is Silicon Valley Product Group. If you've never heard of them and you're interested in technology, building good digital product, they're a great place to be. And this is really this sort of fascinating dichotomy we found ourselves in. And I actually have this, I oftentimes draw this on my whiteboard, which is there was this idea a long time ago that an IT infrastructure group was the only people that understood how to actually put technology on the web. And so what happened there was a bunch of people who didn't fully understand technology at that time just said to them, oh my God, we need one of those internet things so we can make more money, go do it. And so we sort of ended up in this place where we actually had marketing-led IT. And marketing-led IT, in my opinion, is not the right way to do it. So if you're doing that, I would highly urge you to consider thinking through a product thought process or a product methodology. And there's a lot of reasons to do this. The first is that product thought and product methodologies really focus on the needs of the customers. It's not just perceived needs of the business. It's not just reactionary. It's actually working with technology to serve your needs of your customers. I think the second thing is when you have an IT group that's just out there taking orders and developing things, they sort of turn into mercenaries, right? They don't really care about what they build. They just care that they get it out on time. And the real thing that we need to do here is actually create sort of missionaries, right? People who live to serve their customers, who live to actually help and support what the organization and business is trying to do. And I'll sort of end this with my favorite bullet point, because I absolutely hate this thought process and this way of working, which is that really in a IT, marketing-led IT organization, what IT does is they just gather a bunch of requirements, usually from a committee of, like, we've all been in that meeting, right? Where there's like 20 people all saying things that this thing needs to do. And the sort of IT group then just blindly builds. With product thinking, the goal of product is actually to discover what needs to be built, to hopefully test that product, to iterate on it, and then learn from everything that we're doing. So I'll get off my soapbox now, and I'll sort of go back to my bullets. So the second thing that we need to do is really move from outputs to outcomes. And what that means is that, if you haven't heard this phrase, it just means instead of actually delivering things on time and calling that a win, it's delivering things that actually drive value to the organization. So I don't really, in my organization and with the product and technology that we build, I sort of don't care that much about timelines. Sure, of course, we have to hit deadlines. We have to push stuff out on a cadence. We don't want to be spinning on a project forever. But what I actually want us to do is I actually want us to get to outcomes quicker. So what that means is getting products and getting digital experiences out in front of our users as quickly as possible, so that we can understand if this is something that is of value for our customers, if it's of value to West Elm's brand. And then the third thing we really need to do is create an environment where the right people can thrive. And I think this is maybe one of the more challenging ones, and I'll get to the sort of chicken and egg with this in a moment when it comes to hiring and attracting people in a place where maybe we already can't hire and attract people. But these are the big three that I continue to talk about in our organization, and that we've really pushed to try and improve and sort of just land as much as possible with all the different things that we do. So again, I said, I feel like I had so much text. I was like, I need some old school clip art to really drive this home. And so a mean elephant search on Google presented this option, and I thought it was fantastic. There's a little bit of a chicken egg here, right? So there's a problem that I'm asking us to make all these changes, to do all these different things, to provide this new type of organization. But at the same time, we have to sort of address another core problem, which is that retail traditionally is bad sort of at attracting and hiring the right type of talent. And this is a very interesting thing, because I'm telling us to update our methodologies, but then people say to me, well, Luke, I can't actually hire the people that could come in to update the methodologies because we haven't already updated our methodologies. And so we sort of end up in this constant loop of trying to figure out, okay, how do we actually move this forward? How do we actually sort of come to a point where we can start hiring these people and pushing our business forward? Again, it goes back to this sort of pain point, right? We struggle because our technology and methodologies are actually outdated. And again, it's the circular cycle here. And so let's think about how we can actually start to attract quality talent, especially tech talent. The first thing is shift to that product methodology. And you don't have to do it internally. It doesn't have to be happening today. I think it's just about shifting your mentality. So when you're talking with people, when you're interviewing people, when people are trying to understand what the opportunity is, it's exciting for someone to hear that our goal is to move to a much more product-focused mentality, and we understand that what it takes to get there is to do A, B, and C. That's an exciting way to start to attract quality tech talent. The other thing is provide people with interesting challenges. I know this seems sort of stupid to say out loud at times, but the idea of IT being the place where we throw a bunch of requirements and they build things is not an interesting challenge. Someone who is passionate about building quality technology, quality user experiences, isn't going to just come in and be told exactly what to do and then go do that. And then the last thing is, if we're not just giving them requirements, just giving people these sort of statements, we can actually empower people to solve real business challenges. I think that's the key point too, right? It's how do you tell people or let people know that by coming to your organization, by working with your group, we're going to empower you to solve real business challenges, and we're actually going to measure you not on your output, not on if you've delivered things on time, but on the outcomes. Did you deliver something that made us money? Did you deliver something that actually drove a KPI that we were focused on? And how did you actually get there? So the other piece of all this stuff too is, and why we also struggle is, I think hiring tech talent is a little bit out of everyone's comfort zone right now. And I think that's something we need to all take a deep look inside and understand and try and figure out. These are not real quotes, but they are sort of abstractions of quotes that I've actually heard in real life. From HR departments or people in talent departments, I oftentimes hear, okay, Luke, well, what exactly does a front-end developer do? And my statement to them is, oh, it's time to figure that out. And we're honest and we're open, and I help people on our teams figure that stuff out. But the idea that a representative, a recruiter, someone who's looking to employ people for your organization doesn't understand what a key job that actually powers a significant portion of your business does and how it actually works and what to look for is a massive problem in my opinion. And I'm not here to be like, oh, you're bad, go do that. I'm here to actually say, let me help you understand what this means. Let me help you understand how to actually look at these people, how to actually understand if they're valuable. Let me tell you what they do. Let me tell you how they provide value. So I think it's definitely a little bit of a journey to get to this point, but it's important to have these sort of tough conversations and admit where we sort of are falling down. And this goes up the chain, right? So hiring managers. If you're trying to hire someone, especially if you haven't hired people who have these sort of product and technical skills that you're looking for, the first question you get from hiring managers is, well, I actually don't know how to evaluate these type of skills. And I say, okay, well, that's great. That shows me one thing. That shows me that you need to actually hire someone who knows how to evaluate these skills. So that better be your first hire. And it better be someone you can trust. So don't miss on this hire. This is probably the most important hire you can make as you're moving sort of down this hill, if you will. And it continues to sort of go up. Finance, I always get this one, well, why do we have to pay these people so much? Which I love. That's such a hilarious statement to me. Well, it's a free market, and people get paid this at other places. And unfortunately, if you don't pay good talent, they will go elsewhere. The other thing I like to tell our finance department is that I can actually hire one person for probably about 2/3 of the rate that I could hire 2 people, and their output actually can be more because their talent and their capabilities are more than that. So there's ways to actually talk through this conversation, but it is a very large conversation to have. And then I get this question too, right? Don't we already have people who do this, from CEOs, presidents, et cetera? This one's complicated. The answer is maybe. You might have these people. There might be people in your organization that actually can do and actually can bring this forward. In fact, I would say there probably is. I think the largest problem is that we actually don't have an environment, and again, we don't have the methodologies set up to make them effective. So you're actually probably wasting tons of money and tons of resources on employing these people not to actually execute in the way that you would hope they would. And so I think all of these questions, all of these different items, they're sort of just the hard questions we all need to have with our internal selves about how are we actually going to push past all these? How are we going to answer these questions? Because they're out of people's comfort zones. They're not specifically easy. And even when you see the answer in your face, it doesn't make it so. It sort of says, oh, yeah, of course, that makes sense, but I'm not going to learn, or I don't have the capacity to do that, or I don't want to change the way that we're handling things. And I think that's the place that we have to sort of get beyond. So let's stop for a second, and let's remind ourselves who we're actually looking for when we start to hire this talent and we start to foster these digital innovation groups. What we're looking for is actually empowered product managers and engineers who can work together to solve real business problems. And this is the crux of this entire discussion. So I think, and I put my tiny little bullet at the bottom there, which is like, not surprisingly, this is also the basis of like almost every successful startup you can think of. There was always someone who was really good at understanding users, and usually they had some business acumen. And there was always someone who was really good at understanding users, and usually they had a strong engineering or technical background. And all of these things, or at least these two ideas, can live in a variety of different ways, right? Some people excel in different components of these sort of different capabilities, but these two pieces of the puzzle really are the biggest drivers for being able to foster digital innovation and being able to sort of move the ball forward when it comes to technology. And I've highlighted, bolded, whatever I've done, solve real business problems. This is so crux to this conversation because we treat oftentimes IT and engineering groups as just people to give requirements to. And I know I've harped on this, but I'll soapbox one more time. If you want people who are really going to be passionate about your users, who are going to be able to actually build quality products and technology, we have to give them real business problems to solve. I think the litmus test for this is take 2 people, take a product manager and an engineer, and if you don't feel you could put them in a room and on their own, with no other help from anyone else, they could come up with a positive solution that would move your business forward, then you haven't hired the right people. because that's what these people should be able to do. They should be able to look at problems, they should be able to dissect data, they should be able to work with other people, but most importantly, they should be the ones coming up with the solutions and the things that will impact your business moving forward. And I know, I think some of this stuff seems sort of like, oh yeah, of course, that's what it is, but fundamentally, as a retail world, we sort of don't do this stuff. We look at these problems very differently. We don't think that two people should be able to go off and actually create a solution and solve something and make something impactful for the business. We often involve committees and groups, and we over-engineer our own thinking and our own requirements, and we sort of bake into this very iterative process that a lot of people talk about, all this bureaucracy and sort of bullshit. And I think for me, that's the place where I still struggle with this. Even in our organization, we still have these committee meetings at times and things where everyone needs together, and that's a necessity at times, but we continue to sort of push through that stuff and try and make it so that we can actually create real solutions. So I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all this stuff and then not tell you guys what we've been doing at West Elm and sort of how we've actually utilized a lot of this thinking, a lot of these philosophies, a lot of these methodologies to actually create impactful business solutions. Is everyone familiar with West Elm? I got like 5 hands. Good. Yeah, okay, good. I don't know. So, I've given this conversation before at like a tech conference to try and get people from tech to actually come into retail, because I think it's an exciting place and it's a place that I'm extremely passionate about. And I got like 50% West Elm hands, and I was like, crap, we got to do better brand awareness. And then I asked them about, do you know Williams-Sonoma? And they said, everybody put their hand up. Pottery Barn, everybody put their hand up. And I said, do you know that they're all the same company? And everyone went, no, not really. But I assume you guys all know that, so I don't have to cover that. Okay, good. A lot of head nods, so I'll take that. So West Elm is a $1+ billion revenue organization, ladders up into Williams-Sonoma, which does significantly more with our Pottery Barn, Mark & Graham, Rejuvenation, et cetera. We sell home furnishings and home goods, and we do a lot of sales online. We do have a significant store footprint, and we are taking a lot of the things that I'm talking about here today, and we're actually moving that into how we build technology for our stores and how we actually do everything for our stores. But we do tons of business online as well. And so these type of organizational shifts and changes are dramatic for us and can be very significantly impactful for our bottom line. And again, that's where I talk about the outputs versus outcomes, right? That's our goals are always around significant KPIs that we're driving towards, not due dates that we want to hit. And for us, that's, whatever, it seems like an obvious change, but when you get out of that mindset, when you really start to understand that, you understand that timing is not as important as if something can actually move the needle for your business. So, what have we been able to achieve at West Elm? All the buzzwords that everyone has said, literally. We iterate, we pivot, we deploy, we redeploy, we fail fast, we blah, 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 right? Cool, we do all those things. I think that's great and wonderful. But honestly, I don't like talking about it. I like talking about the work. I like talking about our process. I like talking about our organization. I hate the buzzwords. I hate the idea that if we throw a bunch of buzzwords at people, they'll just go, oh yeah, you're obviously checking boxes and doing the things. Again, checking a box, probably a buzzword. And so our thing is we try and do it. And our biggest motto in the innovation and digital product group that I lead is we're going to show people with our actions. So we're going to demonstrate this stuff to people and show them the outcome of our work so that they can see for themselves, this is how we do this, this is the process, this is how we get there, and this is the benefit to the business. Because nothing speaks louder to a CEO or a president than, hey, we're driving you X number of dollars more per month, per day, per user. And we also do lots more than just sort of talk about things and actually provide and put forward action. We actually provide a really interesting function for the entire organization. We actually educate on technical capabilities. So we do FYI Fridays. We have a newsletter around our user experience and technology group that we send out. We help people who maybe, like our HR team, who maybe didn't understand some of the nuance of what we're trying to do and how digital is actually moving forward. We're giving them education in our capabilities, what we can do, how to get there. Just last Friday, I did an FYI Friday on a set of machine learning algorithms we built for our merchandising and marketing teams, right? That's exciting. For them, we're putting that tool, that prototype, that small little thing that took us a few days to build in their hands, and that's actually helping them to make business critical decisions. And sort of that's the second bullet point as well, right? We're giving early access to prototypes, and not just internally. We're giving alpha access, beta access, early access of our prototypes to users and consumers, either in a controlled testing environment or potentially sometimes in the wild, to understand what the product market fit is. And obviously, all along the way, we're measuring how these things are succeeding. We're taking in quantitative and qualitative information to sort of say, oh, we're going the right way, or if we are going the wrong direction, then how do we actually course correct that? And we go out looking for problems. So I have constant interaction with all of our business leaders, from merchandising to marketing to advertising to you name it. And oftentimes what we actually find ourselves in is talking to them about sort of old problems. Why are we relying on 100 different Excel spreadsheets for this inventory and planning thing? We can probably help you guys solve that. And so our goal is also not just to go out looking for problems, but also find things that are large-scale operational inefficiencies, and how do we help people understand that we can solve them, those problems for them, even if they thought they were something that was ingrained in the business or just ingrained in what they were doing and sort of how we always did it. We also reduce reliance on vendors. Sorry, I know there's lots of vendors in here. I apologize. And we provide expertise where only outsiders could, right? So this is the other piece of this puzzle that's sort of lacking. When you have people who are passionate about technology, when you have people who are passionate about the new wave of the new frontier of different things that are coming available, AR, VR, blah, 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 we say all these things, but we actually have realistic information and knowledge about this, and we can help to educate and provide expertise in these areas so that when we are making decisions, when we are moving forward with vendors, we actually maybe know just as much about that venue, that area, that product as they do. We also try and demonstrate our product mentality every day. The nice part about this is actually in our organization, it's flowing over into some of our other groups. So the product mentality thing that I've talked quite a bit about, we've actually successfully flowed a lot of that into our marketing group. So our marketing group is doing daily stand-ups, which is a traditional product and agile methodology for building technology. And they're actually using that to better understand where all the pieces and where all the functions of marketing are going, what they're doing, how they're being impactful, and then laddering those across. Before that, things were somewhat siloed. Different email teams were not talking to each other. Different ad-based teams weren't talking to some of the day-to-day marketing teams. And by bringing everyone together, they can sort of understand where things are going, learn from each other, and better communicate with our customers. Okay. I said a lot of things, I talked a lot of talk, so let's actually show you some of the stuff that we've been working on and that we're excited about. So one of the first things we launched last year, it was one of first or second projects I actually worked on, was something called the Pinterest and West Elm Style Finder. This was an awesome tool. It's still available. We're working on iteration 2.0. And basically what it does is you give us a Pinterest board, and we run this against image recognition, machine learning, and AI, and we basically provide you with a subset of results based on your personal style that matches that Pinterest board that you gave us. It's an awesome tool. It drives people who use it are significantly higher revenue per visitor, conversion rate, and time on site. And not only that, but we actually got a bunch of press for this thing too. We got a Fast Company article, which was really exciting. We were in Digital Trends. That got picked up across a number of different architecture and home blogs and things like that. So it was a great piece that showcased not only outputs, right, but then also the outcomes component. So we delivered this on time, but the big piece for us and why we're successful is because we were hoping to drive additional revenue, additional order size, and then also the PR blip was a sort of nice little additional outcome for this project itself. Another thing that we actually just released last week was a very interesting idea, and I talked a little bit about how we have this capability in understanding newer forward-thinking technologies, and this is a great example. So my team had worked on building some VR and AR applications, and one of the things we realized was that web VR and WebGL is actually starting to get really powerful, and phones and actually any modern browser with a decent connection can actually launch this type of stuff. And so in about 6 to 8 weeks with one developer, a part-time designer, and a little bit of a product manager, we actually rapidly prototyped a 3D fabric tool based on a problem we were seeing where people were constantly ordering swatches, or they didn't understand what our fabric looked like online. And we were realizing that our merchandising team for our made-to-order products, which are products that are obviously made to order, special orders, take a long time, we're having significant drop-off online, and we wanted to correct that. So there's a little video here I'll just show you guys of this tool. But if you go down into our swatches on a variety of our products, and you either click on the 3D fabric viewer or double-click on any of our swatches, we actually launch in the browser. This is all web-based mobile, so no nothing fancy here, a fabric viewer. And this is a 3D object, a 3D pillow here that we've wrapped in the specific fabric that you've chosen. And you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can actually change the lighting. So if you want it to be warm or cool or dark, you can do that. And you can actually get a real feel for what these fabrics look like. And we've QA'd all these against real fabrics in real time, so we know they are actually true. And what this has done so far is actually driven significant increases in people who are adding these type of products to cart. And that's, of course, leading to then conversion rate increases as well. Very early sample size, and we just spun it up over about 35 or 40 product pages. But based on sort of our initial go through and based on the response we've got from user testing as well as quantitative testing from actual A/B testing, we're going to then bump this out to about 200 plus products on our site. So this is very quick, very iterative. We didn't spend a lot of time, 6 weeks, not a ton of resources invested. But now that we know we have something that we think will be very successful for our brand, we're able to accelerate that, add that, put that in front of more people, get that out there to more sort of users. And another thing that's happened too is that we also continue to get mentions. Our work's been showcased, and the work I'm about to show you in a second, it was showcased at Chrome Dev Summit last year. At Google I/O, we were in an entire area. And that's not anything we paid for. That was something that Google asked us to do because they really loved the work that we had been doing for mobile. And I'll sort of show you guys that here, which this is sort of a first iteration of our mobile beta site, which if you do go to westelm.com on a mobile device, you'll probably end up getting bucketed into this site because while it is still a prototype, it's been so successful for us, we've actually accelerated it to handle the majority of our mobile traffic. And specifically, we've seen revenue per visitor lifts of about 9%, which for a brand that does a significant portion of its sales online, this is a massive uptick for us. And that's really being driven by an enhanced conversion rate and people spending more time on site. There's no tricks here. This is the real speed of how this site actually browses. The key here is that we've actually focused intently on perceived instantaneous interaction and actual instantaneous interaction. So any click you do, any action you do on this site, it happens instantly, or we inform you that we need a second to get you your data, but we also inform you that that's happening. You'll also notice that when you actually click on different things here, things feel like they load instantly. There's a lot of strategy around caching and how we actually think through the way that we actually present technology to people. I could talk about that for like an hour, but I don't want to do that. I have given presentation on that too. But I don't want to do that because I want to give you guys a couple minutes to ask any questions you have. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if anyone has questions now, happy to answer, or afterwards, be happy to chat as well. Is there any questions I can answer for anyone? Yes, in the back. Do we? Have we seen a decline in returns? With all your new technology, reducing your returns. So that is something that we look at. I think the stuff that I've shown you right here isn't really the things that we are working on to reduce returns. Oftentimes, well, that's untrue. A little bit of our fabric viewer is to do that. We want to bring out and make sure that people can understand and see the product in multiple different variations before they make that purchase. I think one of the big places we're investing is in supply chain for talking through how do we improve returns. Any questions?
Hi, Luke. So my question is about hiring. Mm-hmm. You mentioned how lots of people in HR and throughout the organization don't really understand tech. You understand retail. How many people in tech really understand retail? Because that's as important, don't you think?
I think it is. I got sort of, maybe I'm uniquely positioned for this because I grew up in startups that catered to retail companies as well as agencies that catered to retail companies. And so I ended up learning about retail in a lot of different ways. I think that where you end up with the right solution is that there's a lot of people out there, especially in technology, who are interested in retail, but don't actually understand that they're interested in it yet. And what I mean by that is I've actually had really good success hiring engineering talent, hiring product management talent, hiring user experience talent from places like agencies, from other startups, because these people are looking for something that maybe is a little less, how do I say it, a little less insane, maybe a little more stable. We always say that the people who want to come work for us at West Elm and our innovation team are either startup or agency burnouts, and they've either been beat to ground by one or the other for some other method, but they're very smart people. They understand the space, and the key here is they understand users. And if you understand users, you can apply that very easily to whatever business application you're trying to apply that to. You just need to get more demo information. You actually need to talk to your users more. But there's people out there in technology that do understand retail. Maybe not as much as me, I don't know, but they're out there and they're definitely interested in coming to work for us. There's also a ton of young people who are coming through right now that we've been talking with, engineering specific talent that actually is really interested in retail, especially because of the way that we've sort of seen businesses come alive during their lifetimes. They see this as an actual viable path in technology. I'm getting blinked on. Should I take another question or? Okay. Does anyone have another question? You can yell or we can run a mic out to you, whatever you like.
Just very quickly, I'm curious about, did you change the culture of how, when you're hiring these people, how they work as far as hours, review process? We all know with the new employees, you can't wait a year to give them a review. There's kind of that constant feedback and ability for them to share. I'm just curious if you had to change the culture of your company to do this.
100%. So the review process, we've actually mainly moved to our standard review process is a year. But we moved to quarterly reviews as well with all of our internal associates from a technology perspective. We also do allow for much greater flexibility. I think in sort of working from home and remote and things like that than has traditionally been allowed. But we're okay with that. We're looking for people who drive, I hate to say it again, but drive output, outcomes, excuse me. And those people are used to, and the organizations that they're coming from, that's something that they've been able to sort of have in the past. So it's something that we do sort of continue to evolve. I'd say we sort of sit in the middle ground is probably the right answer for all of this. We're very aware of our entity and who we work for, and the people who we bring on are aware of that as well, but they're usually looking for a little more stability. So it's actually welcomed to have some more structure around what they're doing, because oftentimes the places that they come from had like no structure and maybe one HR person that didn't really do HR. They were more like the office manager or something like that. So yes and no. I think we're sort of a weird hybrid model between the two at this point. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.